I want to talk a little bit about the Garden of Eden and the serpent. I keep seeing time and time again people talking about how the serpent in the Garden of Eden was actually Satan. The serpent was not Satan, and you're just repeating the same stories to each other over and over again. If you look at it, the serpent couldn't have been Satan. First, the serpent was cursed to crawl on its belly all its days and eat dust, which of course only makes sense if you lived around the time the Bible was written and you actually have no idea what a snake actually eats. So obviously God didn't write this. Anyway, the serpent was cursed, okay? Now, Satan doesn't crawl on his belly. In Job, he's walking. So we know Satan is not himself a serpent. So if this was just a snake, why would God curse the snake if it was Satan doing the work? Right? If Satan was acting through the serpent, Satan had possessed the serpent, then it was Satan who should be cursed. But it didn't say that. And it didn't say Satan was talking to Eve, it said the serpent was talking to Eve. So if the only way that cursing the serpent makes sense is if the serpent knew what it was doing and knew that what it was about to say to Eve was wrong, or it shouldn't have said it. Now, think about this too. God lied to Eve. Or actually, God didn't even talk to Eve. He talked to Adam. God lied to Adam because when he said, do not eat of it, do not even touch it, lest ye die. I know that Christians keep saying, well, that means they becomes mortal. Bullshit! Because there were two trees in the Garden of Eden. There was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and there was the tree of life. And the tree of life gives immortality. Now, why have that tree there if you are already immortal? Right? Now, of course, the question is, why have the tree there in the first place? Which leads us to a deeper question of religious dogma. Why have the tree there? Why have magical fruit trees in the garden when in fact you could just have ordinary trees? What would have happened? What would be the result if there was no magical tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Well, Adam and Eve would live as God had intended, and then would they have procreated? Who knows? But things would have been exactly as God intended. So it's really God's fault that he put the tree there. And he should have known, if I put the tree here, they're going to eat of it because, he's omniscient, right? If I put the tree here, they're going to eat of it. And then I will have to curse them and this talking snake. That doesn't make any sense. That's just, what? It's crazy bullshit. And if you're going to say that, that was necessary for our free will, well, why didn't God create us with free will? And B, if Eve didn't have free will, or Adam or whoever, to eat of the apple, then why were they cursed? Right? And how about this? God lied to them. He said, if you eat of it, you'll die. The Satan said, no, you'll just gain wisdom. And guess what? It wasn't Satan. The serpent said, no, if you eat it, you'll just gain wisdom. And guess what? They gained wisdom. So God lied because they were already mortal, because there was the tree of life in there that would let them live forever. So if they were already mortal, then obviously eating of it didn't mean making them mortal. It meant if you eat it, you're going to die. I mean, if I tell you, if you drink this cup, I've got a mysterious brown fluid in here. Could it be coffee? Could it be poison? If I tell you, if you drink of this, you will die, what do you think I mean? Do I mean you'll become mortal? Or do I mean you'll drop dead? If you're honest, I know that's hard for a lot of Christians, but if you're honest, you will agree that if I say, if you drink this, you'll die, you're going to take that to mean you're going to die immediately. It's like drinking bleach or something. If we met in a day-to-day environment out in the real world somewhere, and I met you at the shopping, at a shopping mart or something, and I said, you know, if you drink that, you're going to die. You're not going to go, yeah, maybe I'll become mortal, or we all die eventually. No, you're going to think that I'm warning you that what you're about to drink is toxic. So why would Eve and Adam think any different? And let's add one more element to this. Nobody had died. Adam and Eve didn't know even what that meant. So if I told you, if you drink of this, if you even touch it, you'll fnarf. What is a fnarf? Well, who knows, right? Is it good? Is it bad? Maybe it's good. So there was no death. So Eve is not even going to know what that means. And what would it mean anyway? If Eve had died, the world was heaven already, would she just... What would have happened? Where would she go? Just... I don't know. That's... So anyway, to recap. There were two magical fruit trees in Eden. There's the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and there's the tree of life. If there's a tree of life there, and then Adam, or God, kicked Adam out, or Adam and Eve, he kicked them out of the Garden of Eden after they ate of the fruit of knowledge of true, fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He kicked them out so that they couldn't eat of the tree of life and gain immortality. So they didn't have immortality in the first place. And don't give me this bullshit that they were immortal and they lost their immortality, because why would the tree be there in the first place if they were already immortal? And then, you know, we come back to the thing, why did God put those trees there in the first place? God, or Adam and Eve, were like children. No understanding of things, no maturity, no sense of understanding. I mean, they hadn't even eaten of the tree of good, knowledge of good and evil, so they didn't even know what good and evil was. So they were children. Now, anybody who's got children or has been around children knows you do not create a dangerous environment for children. If you put a weapon, a knife or something on the floor around a 2-year-old, you know that's the first thing he's going to go for is that. So why would God, the omniscient creator of the universe, create two immature, ignorant, innocent entities and then put a weapon like that, a dangerous tool like that, in their environment? And then leave. Not keep an eye on them. And then have a magical talking snake? This doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to say this all had to happen so that we could have free will, then why would it be a curse? Why would God bother creating us in such a way that he had to curse us? It's just like bullshit upon bullshit. Which brings me to another silliness, and that is the whole Judas thing. And I know that other people have touched on this, and it's been in the media and in Hollywood and stuff. Judas betrayed Christ, right? And so he was the most reviled name, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Supposedly, Christ's mission was to be crucified. So Judas was just part of that mission. If Judas didn't crucify Christ, or didn't give up Christ rather, Christ wouldn't have been crucified. If Christ wasn't crucified, people wouldn't be saved. So Judas was crucial in giving up Jesus. And there's actually the Gospel of Judas, which is not part of the Bible, that actually talks about the fact that Judas was fulfilling a job Jesus asked him to do. So, you know, Judas was a good guy according to that thinking, that line of thinking, that other gospel. And if you just look at it, you know, if Jesus wasn't betrayed, if Jesus was not caught and crucified, you wouldn't have all the saves, blah, 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 right? So Judas was a good guy, not a bad guy.